What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Halfback Dynasty. My name is Brendan. We are joined today with our co-host, Tyler, legendary Gator Sens. Tyler, how the heck you feeling, my friend?
Feeling great, Brendan. Sweating here. It's over 100 for the second day in a row here in Colorado. Most people forget this is an arid desert. But what we're sweating today is making sure you got the right people in place. We still got a little bit of time, man, but hey, your rosters need to be looking good. We're getting closer and closer by the day, getting ready for some camp news. Pretty soon we'll have Hard Knocks starting. We're getting there, buddy. We're almost through those real tough months of Dynasty where all you're trying to do is make trades because, hey, at least you're doing something.
At least you're doing something. Can't wait for that camp news to come out. Every player is the best player anyone's ever seen. Everyone is the worst player anyone's ever seen. It's a lot of hype. I can't wait. I can't wait, Tyler. So we definitely we had a good series. We definitely just finished up a big series that took us about 4 or 5 episodes. We did top 5 Dynasty players at each position. If you haven't seen those videos yet, please go check them out. We basically had the same rankings, I'd say, minus a few players, which is good. That means I kind of know who you like and you kind of know who I like. So did you have fun doing that series, my man?
I loved it, man. I thought it was fun hearing, like you said, we had guys pretty similar, maybe up and down a slot or two, but I really enjoyed the one that stuck out for me, man, Travis Etienne. I love that you're feeling it, loving that you're all in. I mean, as you well know, I kind of not really blew up my team in our main league, but look to retool a little bit, get a little bit younger, and I'm rolling in with Dobbins and Etienne as my RBs, so I'm loving the fact that you got Etienne that high. I saw a little, I don't know if it was TikTok, Twitter, whatever it was, a little video with him and like 4 or 5 other running backs. Melvin Gordon was there. Dare Ogubawala was there and like 2 other dudes. ATN looking good in that video, man. That's all you want in the off season is those little homemade videos where it's like, man, this dude's going to be so good.
Hey, he's smart. He's putting himself in some training camps with a lot of aging running backs. So he looks a little more explosive, maybe a little quicker. So
there you go.
Me, you know, that this was 7 years ago and he was training with Melvin Gordon. Travis Etienne probably would have been about 14. So
no doubt, man. That's a good call because Zeke was in it too. So yeah, yes, exactly. You're spot on, man.
Exactly. You know what? I'm predicting a big year for him. It's kind of his rookie season since he's been hurt all of last year, but dude, he's explosive. He's going to be catching a lot of balls from Trevor Lawrence. So it's Travis Etienne season, baby. So
yes, sir.
Tyler, really happy to have you here. Let's go ahead and try out a new series, something we've never done before. This was actually a request from one of our buddies in one of our fantasy leagues. Basically wanted us to discuss some of the muddier depth charts at the running back position within some of these franchises. So I went ahead, I picked out 3 of them, 3 organizations that you probably want to stay away from in terms of drafting or, paying the big bucks for. Any of these running backs could probably emerge as the RB1. None of these running backs could emerge. It could be a running back by committee. So I think we should just jump right in. Tyler, I have 3 honorable mentions that I don't want to go too in-depth with, but I did want to make some mentions. Here are 3 teams that I'm going to be very cautious about when drafting or keeping these players on my dynasty roster. Number 1, I hate to say it, but the Philadelphia Eagles. I have no idea why they don't use Miles Sanders. He is incredibly athletic. He can be an all-purpose back. He can run the ball. He can especially catch the ball, but they seem to have other options on the roster that they seem to prefer. Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott even. I mean, that's kind of embarrassing. I like Boston Scott. He's a cool guy, but, how are you going to give Boston Scott a lot of carries and not Miles Sanders? It makes no sense. So I had to make sure the Eagles were on the list. Number 2, San Francisco 49ers. I stay away from the 49ers every single year in terms of the running back position because every year there's somebody different. you don't have to be talented to be a running back on the 49ers. You just have to be available. As long as you're not hurt, you're playing. And as long as you're playing, you're somehow putting up big yards. I have no idea how it happens, but it does. You know, you got Elijah Mitchell hopefully leading the pack this year, but I'm going to tell you what, I have a prediction, Tyler. He's going to be hurt by week 3. And when he's hurt, the next guy is going to step up. And I don't even know who that next guy is because I don't think they drafted a running back. Did they draft a running back? I don't think they did.
Yeah, they drafted a kid from LSU. What is it, Tyrion Price?
Oh, true. Well, guess what? I don't think he's going to do anything unless Elijah Mitchell gets hurt. So
Gotcha.
Definitely have no stock in the 49ers running back players, the running back position. Lastly, this one's the most obvious of the bunch because this organization has had the muddiest depth chart probably in all of NFL history. That is the New England Patriots. Yes, you have Davian Harris, who is actually a pretty decent running back, but with Bill Belichick at the helm, you have no idea who they're going to play. I mean, you had like 3 years ago, you had 4 running backs getting some action, and Sony Michelle, Rex Burkhead. It just blows my mind. This year you have Ramondre Stevenson, who a lot of people are thinking is going to take that leap of faith and become a playable, a dynasty startable running back, but you just don't know how the cookie will be cut by Bill Belichick with the touches and passes given to the running backs. How do you feel about those honorable mentions?
I like it, man. I mean, it's unfortunate with the Patriots because, I mean, Harris, depending on your scoring system, arguably, I think he was in the top 10 last year. But yeah, I think Stevenson showed enough in the games that Harris struggled and or just didn't get touches for whatever reason, which is your main point. Stevenson can play. So yeah, I don't really know what to expect. We've seen it with the Patriots. They don't care what you did the year before. You could have been the best running back in the league. Look at Sony Michelle was so important in that Super Bowl they won. He scored like 6 touchdowns in those playoffs. Really didn't ever do anything again for the Patriots. So they don't care about last year. So who knows what happens with Harris? Who knows what happens with the guys behind him? Yeah, San Francisco is tricky. I mean, not only did they shuffle the deck a little bit, you also got to factor in Trey Lance, man. He's going to be like Lamar Jackson. He's going to take touches away from the RB, fair or not. Doesn't mean you still can't have a productive running system, but there's going to be less carries to go around. So, and then, sorry, who was your first?
The Eagles.
Yes. I just wanted to hear you say it again because as long as you and I have been friends, I've told you Miles Sanders is terrible.
No. He's not terrible. They just don't.
He always seems to disappoint. I'm with you, man. I do question sometimes why they don't give him the ball, but then I wonder, behind the scenes at practice, stuff like that, is he not as good as maybe we think he is within the community? If he was, you think he'd get more touches? Like you said, it's shocking that Boston Scott gets more touches than him. So there's a part of me, it's got to be Miles Sanders, it's got to be the coaching staff. It's probably a combo, but yeah, best to avoid. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just don't get it. I know Miles Sanders has been hurt, a few games every year, but he just seems like he's got the entire package. So I don't know what's going on. Hey, real quick,
it might not happen for him, man.
It might not, and that's he's approaching year 3 or 4, and by this point, he's got to have a massive year, otherwise he's done.
For sure.
Speaking of Trey Lance, I was on playerprofiler.com. Awesome website where you can basically compare NFL players. So if you're looking at rookies, they'll give you all their statistics and basically their 40-yard time and all that good stuff. And then they always compare that player to a current NFL player. And when you said Trey Lance, it made me think like I need to go look him up and who they compare him to. You ready? Which quarterback do you think they compared Trey Lance to?
He's in the NFL currently, or
he's currently in the NFL. Yeah, he is. I'll tell you this, it doesn't make sense. Does not make sense.
Okay, I was going to say, I mean, it's unfair to put him as a Lamar Jackson, but that's the only kind of dual threat, huge arm quarterback so if it doesn't make sense, I don't know, Baker Mayfield.
No, definitely not Baker Mayfield, which I'm sure is going to make a lot of people happy. They have him compared to Matthew Stafford, bro.
Wow.
That doesn't make sense. That does not make sense in my opinion.
Doesn't make sense to me.
They have all the analytics and data, and I highly recommend you go check out this website again, playerprofiler.com. They have Breece Hall coming in comparing to Jonathan Taylor. Oof.
Your man right there. Going back to Lance, as you know, I'm probably the biggest Lance fan there is. If he turns into Stafford, hey, I'll be happy.
Hey,
I don't get the comparison, but apparently I'm thinking about Alvin Kamara over here. But yeah, I don't know. I'll take it though. I'll take it.
Hey, I'll take it too. Even if he puts up 5 years like Matt Stafford has the past 30, I'd be happy.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, man.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get into the 3 NFL running back depth charts that are pretty muddy. I'll try to give the best advice that I can beyond just stay away from these groups of players. But every year there's always people who surprise. There's always teams that disappoint. But let's go ahead and talk about the first running back group on this list. And that is the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins have had a pretty muddy backfield for as long as I can remember, the past 5 years. They don't really draft too many running backs with their premier picks. 2 years ago, I actually thought they were going to take Najee Harris. I really did.
Yeah, I did too.
But they didn't. So it goes to show you they might not value the running back position as much as other teams, such as, let's say, the Steelers, who now had Le'Veon Bell and Najee Harris. But the Dolphins rolled out Myles Gaskin the last couple of years. He was like a 7th round pick, I'm pretty sure, in 2019. So they have a very similar strategy to the 49ers, which honestly, I kind of agree with in a sense. The shelf life of running backs are so shallow in comparison to other positions that once they have their 3rd or 4th year ends, they're due for a big contract. And by that time, they're honestly declining. So that's why you see San Francisco kind of having that next guy up mentality where they don't want to spend big bucks at the running back position. They don't want to spend a premium draft pick. And I get it. I get both sides. But Miami does not and has not had a game-changing running back for as long as I can remember. Number 1 on their depth chart is going to be Chase Edmonds, who had a very lousy 2021 campaign. 116 rush attempts, 592 yards. Pretty dope at 5.1 yards per carry, 2 teeters on the ground. Now, this is the same guy that last offseason, Arizona, the coaches said that he was due for a big year and he was going to break out. A lot of people got hyped on him. Nothing happened. It was a big disappointment. I don't see him eclipsing 800 yards. He gives me Kenyon Drake vibes, if that's a good comp. Kenyon Drake was mediocre at best. He didn't do much. And, yeah, he was just kind of there. Running back 2, Raheem Moster. Speaking of San Francisco backs, he stepped in 1 year, played big, never did anything similar to that ever since. He is incredibly injury prone. He played only I think 1 game last year, 2 games last year. And I don't see him actually being the RB2 on the depth chart once the season starts. I see him as somebody who they could possibly cut. He's going to get hurt. Listen to this. I was on draftsharks.com. It's a super dope website that actually predicts injuries. So I had to look up my boy Raheem Moster because that man is hurt every other game.
Yeah.
Listen to this. He has a 92% chance of getting injured this year. And Draft Sharks will predict that he will miss at least 3 games. At least 3 games. He's been on about 12 different teams. He's fractured his arm. He's had knee issues, ankle issues, a concussion. This guy you definitely don't want to draft. And then moving into RB3 and 4, this is where it gets wild because this player we already mentioned, and he has a ton of potential to jump this depth chart. You know who that is? You want to take a guess?
Gotta be Sony Michelle.
Sony Michelle, my dude. Sony Michelle, although he hasn't been very popular, there was a lot of hype with him coming out of Georgia back in 2018. He's had decent campaigns. He's broken 840 rushing yards 3 out of the 4 seasons. He averages a career 4.2 yards per carry. He gets in the end zone, 4 or 5 times a season. Now, he actually had a pretty good campaign as the backup running back to the Rams when they brought him on. I actually liked him on the Rams. He was very cheap. You could buy him dirt cheap. You could probably pick him up the waivers for nothing. So this is the guy I would probably want to own at current prices on the Miami Dolphins. I think he's going to be the guy that steps into low-key the 1A of that RBBC. Right behind him, you have Myles Gaskin, who is now 4th on the depth chart. Would you look at that? He's just not that impressive. Yes, he can catch the ball. He's a little bit explosive, but when you have late round draft picks, they tend to fall off the cliff very early because they don't have the draft capital to support their position. So that's what I got for Miami Dolphins. How do you feel about their backfield, Tyler?
I'm with you. I wouldn't want anything to do with it, but if I had to pick one, it would be Michelle. I think he's maybe has the best skill set overall. I mean, most people really like Chase Edmonds, but Chase Edmonds has had multiple chances in the past to be the guy, and he's not, because he can't be. He's just not that kind of running back. Michelle, although he's aging a little bit, I think he's already 27. He has the best chance to be the guy. I'm with you. Mostert's good. He just can't stay on the field. So, yeah, that's a backfield I'd be trading out of, and I sure wouldn't be trading into.
I'd give up a third. You probably don't even need to give up a third. You could probably get Sony Michelle for like a 4th.
Now's the time to do it, because everybody is looking at depth charts and they're like, he's a 3rd stringer. I don't want any. Yeah, now is the time to get Michelle. Don't wait for preseason. Don't wait for week 1.
An injury.
You might have to stash him for, the interesting thing about Dynasty that I think a lot of people overlook is if you're a contender, go get Michelle now for nothing. And then when everybody's hurt or banged up and he's the guy heading into the fantasy playoffs, that's the only time you need him. Who cares what he does weeks 1 through 9? If he's putting up 15 points a game come week 10, 11, 12, 13, that's what matters,
So I thought he actually had a pretty good end of the season last year. I don't think he started the year on the Rams. I think they picked him up mid-season, or maybe
they did,
preseason.
Yeah, they did.
And, he finished with over 200 attempts, 845 yards, 4 touchdowns, had over 20 receptions. I mean, that is a free running back out there, folks. That's a guy that's probably not even going to get drafted in redraft leagues. I'm not saying you need to keep him on your bench, but have him on your radar for sure. In Dynasty, he definitely needs to be rostered. Absolutely.
And I think he could have done better, man. I mean, obviously the Rams won the Super Bowl, so it's hard to criticize, but the way Akers played in the playoffs, it was like, why are you not playing Michelle? It didn't make sense to me at all.
It was so bad.
Akers was horrendous in the playoffs.
So while we're on that topic, how do you feel about Cam Akers?
No thanks for me. He's a big no thanks. I think I've said it on multiple forums. To me, where his value currently is, he is the most overvalued and risky player in all of Dynasty. I would put him at number 1 overall for the most overvalued player. If his name wasn't Cam Akers, I get he was coming back from injury, but if he wasn't young and he wasn't a big Dynasty name, the guy averaged 2.1 yards a carry and had a lot of carries in the playoffs. Like that, you can't just brush that under the rug like, oh, who cares? Cam Akers has had 3 or 4 good games in his career. Cam Akers is incredibly overvalued. I think he will lose a majority of his value by week 5.
Yep. I sold them for the 105 in a league, and I thought it was a great
good cash out.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't have faith in Cam Akers.
I wouldn't want to get stuck holding Akers, that's for sure.
Exactly. Let me just throw out some numbers real quick, actually, in regards to Sony Michelle. From weeks 13 to 18 of last season, you ready for the amount of carries he got? I'm going to start listing them off. He got 24, 20, 18, 27, 19, and 21 carries per game, bro. Per game. Dude.
That's big.
He averaged like 22 carries per game from weeks 13 on at the end of last season.
Yeah, it's huge.
And now he's the RB3 on the Miami Dolphins, who have no clear-cut RB1. He's moving up the depth chart.
He can carry a load, man. He can carry a load, and that's, I mean, a lot of people dog on Najee Harris because he's all volume. That's all it takes. You get 20 25 carries a game, you better go over 100 yards in the NFL, you know?
No,
His
exactly.
volume's king. That's all you need is touches. That's it.
Exactly. So I'm a big believer in Sony Michelle for the price. So
Oh,
that's
yeah. 4th, 5th rounder, probably.
easy
Literally.
money, easy money. So
Yeah.
yeah, Tyler, that's the Dolphins. That was first up on my list. I feel like there's a general consensus that the Dolphins have a pretty sketchy running back group.
Not good.
Coming in at number 2, this group is in a very similar boat because, we just don't know what they're doing. I think this franchise is tanking, would be my guess, and there's no reason to pay out a running back with such a horrendous roster. This could be the worst roster in the NFL, in my opinion.
It's definitely the worst running back core in the NFL. I already know where you're going. It's
easily. It's
terrible.
I think this could be the worst roster, and that is the Houston Texans. So beyond all the problems that they're facing in the front office, the problems they had with Deshaun Watson, the problems they had on defense, the one bright spot in Davis Mills and Brandon Cooks, beyond all that, they have a horrible running back group, which is very on par with the organization currently. Their running back one listed, number 1 on their depth chart, Marlon Mack. Number 2, Rex Burkhead. Number 3, Damian Pierce. Number 4, Dare Ogunbowale, which he's another guy that always pops up at the end of the season.
He does. Dude. Yeah, he'll put up some points. He'll put up some points, man.
Yeah, just get ready. Like by week 13, you probably want to pick him up because he's going to come in hot like week 15. So keep him in the back of your mind. But this is a very, very disgusting backfield. Now, I know
you left somebody out there, Brendan. You left out Denver's finest, man. Royce Freeman deserves a shout out.
Royce Freeman is
He's on that depth chart.
Jeez, dude, there was so much hype with Royce Freeman coming into the league. He flopped, bro.
He's on there, man.
Wow, I didn't even notice that. He'll be cut for sure by like week 3. You know what's crazy? He had a lot of hype coming into the season, and I'm pretty sure
he was great in college, man.
He was in the same class with Penny, Chubb, Michelle, Barkley, I'm pretty sure, wasn't he? And Geis.
I'm trying to think if he was maybe the class before that.
I don't think so. You want to know how I know? You want to know how I know? Because my brother took him with like his third round overall pick in our startup dynasty draft that happened in 2018.
Dude, when he landed in Denver, you were like, this kid's just going to come on flying. He disappointed big time.
So what Brian did, my brother, shout out to my brother, very good dynasty owner. It was our first ever dynasty league, and the startup was in 2018. And at the time, like you're still new to everything. You have the guys who are drafting contenders, big names, who are going to fall apart, in 2 years, 3 years. Then you had owners who were drafting very young, right? Because that's the whole idea of dynasty. I'm pretty sure he took Royce Freeman and Rashad Penny in 2018 in the 2nd and 3rd round of the startup.
That was a bad team.
Yeah, it's a horrible team. It came out bad. His team's good now.
I was going to say it might still be bad.
Oh, yeah, no, but dude, I'm telling you, in a startup pick, especially when those guys were rookies, they should have been taken maybe in like the 8th or 9th. He took them in the 2nd and 3rd. He said, you know what, we're going for the home run here. So, horrendous. Shout out Royce Freeman. That's a good story.
Man.
I got to remind him tomorrow when I see him that we mentioned his amazing draft skills. But yeah, let's go back to the Texans here. The only player that is, in my opinion, capable of being the lead running back is Marlon Mac. I think that's right, that he should be number 1 on the depth chart. Rex Burkhead always makes an appearance. I don't know, the Patriots and the Texans last year gave Rex the ball quite a bit, a few games. His yards per carry were so bad. I think it was like 3 yards or even worse, but hey, he got the volume.
Better than Cam Akers.
Oh, yeah, for real. Damian Pierce, no factor in my eyes. Dare Ogunbowale, no factor until week 15. But let's go to Marlon Mac here. You said ew to Marlon Mac, which I agree, not a good starting running back. But let's pick this apart. Okay, the Colts didn't spend that much draft capital when they took him. I think they got him maybe in like the 4th round or something. I can't recall, back in 2017. But he led the Colts backfield in 2018 and 2019, and he actually carried a decent workload. In 2019, before they took JT in 2020, he had 247 attempts. He had almost 1,100 rushing yards, and I don't know how many touchdowns he had on the ground, but it had to have been like 5 or 6. So to me, that is a great cheap running back that has carried the workload before, who is capable of doing it. Obviously, he tore his Achilles, and that definitely set him back big time. But on a depth chart like the Houston Texans have, there is no competition. I think they're going to come out the gate with him, hopefully getting 10 to 15 touches. And if he works out, he works out. If not, you didn't spend anything on him. So that's what I got for the Texans and Marlon Mack, my man.
You mentioned it right at the end. My biggest concern with Marlon Mack is just the injury. I mean, that most running backs don't ever come back from that, period, or they're never the same player. So I expect that similarly to him. Honestly, man, I think it's very ugly, but I truly think Mac's going to struggle in the preseason. I think Rex Burkhead's going to carry the load the first few weeks. And then, as you mentioned, this team is so bad. I think they're just going to turn to Pierce. I mean, he's a rookie. You might as well see what you have. If the kid hits, you don't have to worry about running back. You just roll with him while you're rebuilding. Obviously, Mac, Burkhead, Freeman, those guys are not in your plans. They're just there to take up a spot. So I think if Mac hits well in the preseason, he could definitely be the guy that gets the majority of the carries. But I think as the season goes, I mean, why would you not see what you have with Pierce? I expect Pierce and Mechie to kind of be the featured two of that offense later in the season, just because I think nobody on that team currently that's outside of the rookies are not in future plans, so I think they're just going to rely on them. And if they suck, well, you're at around them, but running back can be so, you just roll a guy in his rookie contract. He doesn't cost you anything if you drafted him where they drafted Pierce. And if he hits, hey, you get a cheap guy for 3-4 years, that's a win for a rebuilding franchise, I mean, what you have in Mac. He's probably not that good. Burkhead's not that good. Like, why not rely on your young guys,
Yeah, I believe the Texans took Pierce in the 4th round. So yeah,
he's pretty cheap on a contract anyways,
very cheap. I agree. I like that. NFL teams still want to be competitive. So yeah, they probably will work Pierce in, but I see Mac having the first opportunity. And as you mentioned, if he hits, he hits. If not, I agree. You just throw your rookies out there. Who cares?
What are you going to do?
Mechie season inbound.
You're probably going to be the worst team in the league either way. It doesn't
really matter who you play.
See who you got, but I agree. I think Mac and or Burkhead the first few weeks, should be likely the guys that if you're looking for a very, very, very risky short-term, hopefully cheap option in Dynasty, I would go with those two. Pierce is going to cost more than either one of them anyways, because he's a rookie that, I don't really see why you would acquire Burkhead or Mac, but I guess if you need a filler for, let's say you have ATN and Dobbins and you're worried weeks 1, 2, and 3, maybe they're not ready. Well, maybe throw in a Burkhead or a Mac as a placeholder.
See what happens.
Because Pierce is definitely going to be more expensive than either one of them.
Yeah, from a selling perspective, if you have Mac or Burkhead as a contender or a rebuilder, exactly. It doesn't matter what type of roster construct you have. You wait for them to pop off, hopefully 1 week. Sell them once the official depth charts come out and you see either of them at RB1 and just move them. Try to get a third. Some guys some guys would probably even pay a second, if I'm being honest with you.
If they're desperate, man, and they think second's late, that would be a monster return. But I'm with you. A third is a good return, honestly. It really is. Those guys are, I mean, Burkhead could retire after next year. I mean,
yeah, he's like 55 and running back. I think he's like 33.
You talk about a guy that's never been a feature, but in the reality of money, longevity, what a great career Burkhead has had. Phenomenal career.
I want to look up real quick how many Super Bowl rings he has. He's got.
I was going to say he's got to have 2, right?
I think he's got to have 2.
That's like Michelle has 2. I mean, who would have? You probably never think about that.
Yeah, Michelle's got to have 2 as well.
Yeah, he's got 2.
Yeah, I want to say 2. I think he's got 2. So
it would seem like he was on the Patriots for like 30 years.
Yeah, that's wild. Shout out Rex Burkhead.
Yeah, great career in the actual concept of a career. He's made a ton of money. He's played for double-digit years. I mean, he's made a ton, man. That's
Got some
phenomenal
bling
career.
bling. Got to live in
great
the
career.
Northeast. Now he's living nice in Houston, warm weather. It's a good life
Phenomenal
for
career,
him.
man.
So
Good for him because he was good in college. He's a good player in Nebraska.
I'm not even sure I was born when he was playing in college.
Which is sad because I remember watching him in college. He was right before Mir Abdullah.
Oh, nice.
Their kind of like progression.
Nice. You'd love to see it. All right, so we got one more team on this list for their muddy running back depth chart. This is a group that we saw some emergence last year, but kind of faded. It's an organization that definitely is not going to be good this year. They do, however, have the most hyped up player in Dynasty football, according to Tyler, that is not named Jerry Jeudy. This organization is the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons made it to my list because it's a similar setup as what we saw with the Houston Texans. You have some very old veterans, and then you have a rookie. You've got Cordell Patterson coming in as their RB1. Damian Williams is their RB2, who's also a Super Bowl champ. Shout out Damian Williams. And you've got, and I think Cordell Patterson's a Super Bowl champ, isn't he? Wasn't he on the Patriots before?
I think he was their return man, and one of those years.
Patriots have so many rings.
Dude, if you went to the Patriots at any point, you got at least one.
Yeah, you got at least one. Yeah, shout out to the guys who played the every other year the Patriots didn't win. That must have been awful. But yeah, then you got Tyler Algiere. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Algiere, yeah.
Algiere. So here are my initial thoughts. Cordell Patterson really turned it up last year. He was a very, very big dual threat RB, especially the first half of the season. Second half, he kind of faded. Threw up 153 rushing attempts, 618 yards, 6 touchdowns on the ground. This is where it gets extra juicy. 52 receptions. 548 yards in the air and 5 touchdowns. That is a great stat line. I hope he can produce those numbers again. But if he's going to be that type of running back, they might also put him in the slot or whatnot and bring in another guy. My thoughts on Damian Williams. I don't think Damian Williams is a factor here. He's 29 years old, I want to say. His stats have not really shown that he can produce. He had one small stint in Kansas City where he produced near the end of the season, that Super Bowl. No, actually, sorry, they won. I'm pretty sure Damian Williams was actually out in Canada due to COVID because he was staying with his family when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. But guess what? He still got a ring for that. You love to hear it. You love
Which Williams was that? Because I thought
Damien.
Was he the one? He wasn't the one that played, or was it Daryl? Whichever Williams played should have won the MVP that game. But
it was Daryl Williams. So okay. Daryl Williams played.
Yeah, he balled out.
Williams. Oh, Daryl Williams is a beast, bro.
He balled out in that Super Bowl.
Let's go. Rojo season. Let's go. But my point being is that I think it was the year before the Chiefs won. Damian Williams had a pretty good stint of a few games, like 500, 600 rushing yards within like a 5-6 game span. But that was it. There's no other, height to his production besides those few games. So Damian Williams is going to continue to sink lower and lower. And then Tyler Algiere is going to, honestly, in my opinion, be the same type of guy as Damian Pierce. You might as well play him. The running back coaches in Atlanta are praising him right now. They say that he's a bruiser, man, that he's a guy that you just send up the A gap and hopefully he gets some yardage. He had a ton of 20+ yards in college, 20+ yard runs, which they're hoping translates into 4 to 5 rushing yards per attempt, which is very solid in the NFL. That's what you need. The only thing I don't like about him, his draft capital is very weak, which is okay. Yeah. You're buying him at hopefully a discount because he's not a supposed stud running back. But I hate this comparison. I don't know how accurate it is because I don't follow this guy that much. But Player Profile compared him to Zach Moss, which is just very discouraging in my opinion. Very discouraging. But hey, the Falcons took him in the 5th round, so there's really no reason not to, I guess, give him a shot if you got no one else. So that's what I got for the Falcons.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Cordero caught lightning in a bottle last year. I mean, I think we've talked about it before. As soon as Ridley went out, you had two playmakers on that team, and they just gave him the ball nonstop, and it was Pitts and Patterson. That's all they did. I don't think that'll be the same this year. I think they're going to force feed Drake London quite a bit, see what he looks like. Like you said, Williams is older. There's only one guy on this team, running back wise, that's Algiere in Dynasty, that you want any part of. I'm not high on him. I'm not necessarily low, but a late second in a rookie draft, sure, I'd take a flyer on him, but I wouldn't be actively trying to trade for Algiere at all. I would be actively trying to trade Patterson, but you and I have talked in the past. You missed the boat on that. The time to trade Patterson was after week 3 or 4 or 5 last year. He's had one good season in 12 or 13 years. That unlikely to continue. So Algiere is the only guy you're looking at there, but another depth chart that I'm with you. If you get Algiere as a throw-in, great. That's kind of the type of throw-in you're hoping for, and maybe he hits, but I wouldn't be trying to acquire, anybody on the Falcons really outside of London or Pitts in reality,
Yeah. Looking at Corrido Stats again, I don't think he's ever broken 500 total yards.
Oh, there's no chance.
Yeah, not including special teams, but last season was the only year that he did it, with the 618 rushing and 548 receiving. So that's an anomaly. That is an outlier right there. I don't think he's going to do it again. I don't even know who's going to be the Falcons starting quarterback. Do they go with Mariota first and then see if Ritter can step in?
Probably. Yeah, probably Mariota. And again, a guy that runs a decent. You don't want anybody on that depth chart.
So, I think we definitely hit this video off correctly in the sense that we picked out probably the worst running back groups in the NFL. I like our choices here. Nobody on these teams I would pay any amount of draft capital for, or I guess young assets if I'm trading. But Tyler, I think we did a good job, man. And I think next week we should do wide receivers. Wide receivers get a little dicey. Not necessarily the wide receiver ones on rosters, but the 2s, 3s, and 4s. I think we can kind of predict who will take that step, who will get some receptions and targets, and who ultimately will fall. First person that comes to my mind was KJ Osborne. KJ Osborne was supposed to be ahead of Justin Jefferson that rookie year. But guess what? That didn't last for long. So that's just the example I got off the top of my head. Does that sound like some good content that you'd want to do next week?
I love the content, man. I'm all in on that. And I know we're running real low on time, Brendan, but I wanted to give you my one bonus depth chart that I'm avoiding at all costs. 2 good players. I want nothing to do with Green Bay. I think Dillon's overvalued, and I think Jones is just getting older. We talk about 2 guys that are going to be splitting carries, touches all year. I'd avoid that at all costs.
Sure. I like that. And you know what, though? Both guys will produce. So,
they're both good. I think Jones will catch a ton of balls without Adams. So,
if you're rebuilding, you might as well just start both those guys, or we'll obviously sell both of those guys.
Sure.
But
absolutely.
Flex them up.
But for a contender, no thanks on either one,
Yeah, thanks for trading me, A. Jones. Love to see it. So, awesome. Tyler, listen, man.
Hey, you came out well in that trade, man.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Tyler, been a great episode as always. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Just remember, you're in this for life.